I've got something important I need to get done today, and I think you should come with me. I'll explain on the way.
On the back of my right arm, I have what I call my sorority girl tattoo. No offense to sorority girls, of course, but I got the tattoo when I was in college with a group of friends, and I think it's important to have a sense of humor about any tattoo you get with a group of people, otherwise you might have inadvertently joined a cult, which, in retrospect, I kind of did.
Now, for the intents and purposes of this video, it's probably important that I disclose that when I say college, I specifically mean community college. It's also worth noting that none of the other friends who got the tattoo were students at said college. They were slam poets.
Now, if you've gotten to this point in your life and still don't know what slam poetry is, congratulations on having never been dragged by your friend, coworker, or God forbid someone you're dating to witness the sad, unfunny, and unfuckable cousin of stand-up comedy. I love slam poetry, but I'm also well aware that no one ever got a Netflix special reciting poems about their childhood trauma over the sound of a blender in the back of a coffee bean and tea leaf in Culver City. I should know. I tried. I'll let you in on a secret. There is little glory and even less money in poetry. But interestingly enough, it is because of that fact and not in spite of it that poetry is capable of something special. I moved out on my own in LA when I was 18 and quickly discovered that in addition to lactose and gluten, people here seem to have a unique allergy to making definitive plans with me, and that is because I had zero access or proximity to fame or wealth. Put plainly, I was a nobody. The poets, though, they didn't care about any of that. They were only concerned with having a warm body in the back of the room that they could throw words at. And so I sat in the back of those rooms until I had some words of my own to throw back.
Relax, it's not for me, okay?
I became obsessed with making it out to poetry readings, and on the nights that I didn't have anywhere to go, I would sit on the same sad couch that I slept on and write poems about wanting to be anywhere but there and alone. I wanted it so bad, in fact, that I was determined to make a place of my own to go. And so one night, I finally got the courage to ask my friend Rob, who hosted a poetry reading, if he wanted to hold a writer's workshop in his apartment, and much to my surprise, he agreed.
And so like that, the next Sunday, I walk into Rob's Hollywood sweatbox of an apartment, and I'm greeted by like the coolest group of poets I had ever seen. They had good tattoos and bad credit scores and mostly functional addictions. All right, let's go.
That first night there was Sam and Lara and Massey and Rob, and it went so well that we decided we were going to do it again the next week, and the next, and just like that, another night of my week had filled up. Being a bunch of edgy millennials, you know we had to call the thing Right Club, and as you know, the first rule of Right Club is... the first rule of Right Club is... Actually, we couldn't shut the fuck up about it. The first rule of Right Club was that you had to do your homework or you had to bring a case of beer, because we had homework, which we took very seriously. And it became pretty clear early on that I was doing my homework specifically for one other person in the group, and that was Lara. See, Lara was like a cool older sister from the same neighborhood of indie sad boy subculture that I was, right on the corner of Gaslight and Gatekeep. However, she had been there a lot longer than I had, and as a result, knew all of my clever tricks and tropes and was significantly better at them than I was. In fact, to prove it, one week Lara got assigned to write a poem in the style of me, which she did masterfully with the story of a high school romance told through the lens of Weezer's Blue album, leaning heavily on the opening track, My Name is Jonas. And the only critique I could possibly lob at her was that I never would have picked such a commercial record. My Name is Jonas is the reason why high school music theater kids will always have Weezer stickers on their clarinet cases, and I clearly would have picked something off of Pinkerton, which is the reason why 40-something dads still make videos about Weezer on the internet. We were more than a group of writers in an apartment. We were a family, in a big, lonely, cold city, bonded by our love of trying to make sense of our place in the world with clumsy language. It was somewhere to go on holidays and birthdays, people you could call when you needed a ride or when you fell short on rent, which sadly happened a bit too often because when the lease went up on 11/10, they lost it. But not before we all decided to get the address tattooed on our writing arms to try and freeze time, but time moves on. Sam and Lara got married, Massey had a kid, Rob got sober, and I got into Berkeley. And my life went a dramatically different direction. I missed Sam and Lara's wedding, and while I regretted it, it always seemed like something that I would be able to make up someday. But then, one day I got a call from Sam who told me that if I wanted to say goodbye to Lara, I needed to get to Sacramento immediately. The cancer was terminal, and the doctors were giving her days, if not hours, to live.
If that transition felt abrupt or awkward for you, I'm sorry, but you should know that it was for me too. Lara wasn't supposed to die. Not in the millennial we're all gonna live forever sense, no, in the sense that she had already beaten cancer once and predictably wrote devastating poetry about it, lines of which I still have memorized to this day. Sam did his best to try and soften the blow. He did something very compassionate for me. He told me that before I go, I should know that the Lara that I'm about to go see is a lot different than the Lara that I remember, that cancer had been cruel. What he didn't tell me is just how much she was the same. And that is the thing that was actually quite a bit harder to swallow. Because while Lara, yes, looked like someone who was dying of cancer, she was still funny and witty and my friend. She made jokes about how her tattoos kept shrinking and mine kept getting bigger, about how she wasn't gonna die on that day because the doctors told her she was supposed to, and that's a stupid fucking reason to die. And while you sit there in that room, you start to look around at all of the machines and all of the bags of things that are keeping her alive, and you start to think that there's got to be something that someone can do, because it feels like you are watching a slow train wreck and nobody is doing anything about it. This, by the way, is the process of grief known as bargaining. Hopefully save you a few $1,000s in therapy. It is your brain rationalizing that when you're sitting in that room, no matter how close you get to them, death will always sit a little closer. And so I talked to her for a while until the distance between her sentences got so long that it was like she was buffering, and she eventually timed out and fell asleep. And Sam let me know that if I wanted to leave, this would be a good time to do it. And I hugged him, and he felt like he had aged 1,000 years since the last time I had seen him. He went from a boy who wanted to be Bukowski to a man who just wanted a little bit more time with his wife. And I got in my car and I drove home. And I can't remember exactly how many miles it is from Sacramento to Berkeley, but I can tell you it is exactly long enough to listen to My Name is Jonas 18 and a half times.